What's the worst thing a good guy ever did in a children's movie or show? Tink in Peter Pan is an absolute monster. She tried to get the Lost Boys to murder Wendy. The whole film is full of abhorrent morality. I mean, that's relatively on the low end of her atrocities. She sells out Pan and the Lost Boys to the pirates because of her hatred and jealousy. In the book it's even worse because the pirates aren't buffoons but highly competent and malicious. Smee isn't as much a lovable idiot in the original. He's a sadistic torturer whose sword is called Johnny Corkscrew because he wriggles it in the wound after shanking someone. He's described as a genial man, who's not as severe as the other pirates to the kids, but he's also described as one who would stab with no offense. Don't forget Peter Pan was a monster too. He'd teach kids to fly but never how to land, and they'd just fly until they starved to death. Lab rats. The dad/inventor kept the kids in cages, and it wasn't until he married and got a stepson that they got rescued. Then everyone was all, oh well, good times. Man, I used to like that show a lot. Now that you mention that though, yeah, what the F? Yeah, those kind of shows have interesting connotations that never get acknowledged. Like, in Jessie, why are people bullying the son of a world-famous movie director? And why do they not have any paparazzi? They live in a giant penthouse. Chase is the team leader of the Lab Rats. He can take control over his siblings with his override app in emergencies, gaining full control of their bionics, body motions, and dialogue. WTF. Honestly, a lot of Disney shows and other kids' shows have creepy undertones like this. This won't make much sense to someone who's never watched the show, but I'll never forget an episode of Wizards of Waverly Place where Alex makes a new friend that turns out to be a part of this underground uprising against the unfair rules on who gets to have powers. She seemingly joins her, only to turn out she was actually tricking her so she could turn her into the authorities. They act like this was this huge, brave and heroic thing she did, and that the people fighting against unfairness were these evil people who deserved to be punished. Basically the message was you should never question authority, and those who try to stand against unjust laws should be turned in. Really creeped me out. Edit. Turns out I misremembered the last part. It's actually worse than that. She freezes her to give her powers to her brother, and then Alex's little brother Max knocks her over and shatters her as a laugh track plays, and they act like it's no big deal. They literally kill her and shrug it off. Man, the people who made that show are messed up. Especially making it a kid's show. Then the series ends with her and her brother getting to be exceptions to the rules anyway. Oh wow. I don't think I ever saw the last episode. I just watched it with my younger siblings sometimes. Alex wins, but both she and Justin keep their powers so they can continue to date their respective vampire/werewolf others. Max gets the sandwich shop as a consolation prize and realizes deep down that even though the magic world will never give him any respect, at least he was their dad's favorite. Yeah, and don't forget that the main characters constantly physically harass their non-superpowered foster brother, even after he gets superpowers. Otherwise, pretty good show. Oh god, I remember that show. Princess Poppy in the Trolls movie. The whole problem and everyone nearly dying was all because she couldn't accept and let someone be happy not singing and dancing. I think they handled her better in the second film when Branch outright tells her she's not listening to anyone and making things worse. The Fat Controller in Thomas the Tank Engine bricking up Henry the Green Train. A very useful cask of Amontillado. For the love of God, Fat Controller. Yes, Henry, for the love of God. Is the Fat Controller really the good guy? The trains are enslaved and taken to the junker's yard if not really useful. Dude is worse than Grandpa Joe. Ha ha, laughed the Fat Controller, you are wrong. All Henry wanted was a coat of waterproof paint or a break from work till the rain stopped. Nope, brick up the tunnel and take up the tracks. F you engine, you work for me. Agent Black from Johnny Test casually and nonchalantly says I blew up Malaysia. Here's my entry to help get conversation going. In the 2005 Disney movie Chicken Little, the school bully, Foxy Loxy, gets teleported by aliens and suffers brain damage resulting in a massive personality change. When the aliens move to return her to normal, Runt of the litter stops them, saying she was now perfect. It's then implied the two become romantically involved. Let's not forget Buck Cluck being a really crap father to Chicken Little. Epic, this whole movie just sucks, laughing my butt off. Edit, I don't think it would be remiss to say F Buck Cluck. One Little Slip is a good song, though. Why, out of every Disney movie, did BNL have to write a song for one of the worst ones? This is the first thing that came to mind. Even as a sheltered kid watching it, I was creeped out by that turn of events, and even more creeped out that it was played off like no big deal. In Wizards of Waverly Place, the whole concept of the family wizard competition is super effed up and immoral. Basically, when all the children of a family come of age, they compete to see who's the best wizard, and the ones who lose are stripped of their powers. Imagine if we have our kids take a vision test and blinded the ones who fail. Anyways, there was a recurring character who was friends with the main cast who was later revealed to be leading a revolution to overthrow this system. The entire main cast labels her as evil, puts a stop to her plan, and then literally murders her at the end. Which character was the revolutionary? I remember someone was disgruntled with the system and tried to steal her brother's powers, but I think that's a different person. No, that was her. She lost to her brother and refused to hand her powers over. They tried really hard to frame it as her being selfish and entitled. TBH, why should only one child of the entire family gets to keep the power, and screw everyone else? I guess it's to lower the risk of someone using magic for evil, but it's still a crap system. You can easily have someone abusing their powers to cheat the competition, and can use it for evil after the competition. Also, the wizard population will go down over time, especially if someone tried to start a war or genocide against them. No matter how many babies will be popped out, the number will be severely low because of that rule, unless the wizards are into polygamy. I think it makes for sense to make a large test to see if the child is qualified to continue using magic or not. Edit. Okay, so a lot of people explained how the one wizard child policy can be justified and how the population would not decline. Some say that wizards need to be kept in secret and hide from the humans, which was seen in the show. Others say magic is a limited resource rather than being unlimited, so the wizards would have to distribute magic equally. It does make a lot of sense, although the system is still a problem as it breaks families apart on who gets to become a wizard or not. As for the population thing, some people theorize that children that lost the competition could be able to have wizards' kids. Although that theory does not hold a lot of water, since we only know the father had magical kids despite giving up his magic. We do not know if he was an anomaly since he was a true wizard without magic, or rejected wizards can bear magical children. I remember the show only having another kid wizard that hypnotized his parents so he can do whatever he wants, and the academy arc. I actually like the theory since it could tie in the academy where the students were the children of rejected wizards being able to learn magic properly. Again, we do not have much resources on how magic genetic function. I thought it was more like a conservation of magic thing, like there's a limited amount of power to go around, so it's a safer bet to let your most wizardry child take your powers and be more powerful than having 3 or 4 middling mages in the family. I think whoever Hayley Kiyoko played, I forget the character's name. Sam or something? Yay, I remember watching that arc as a teen and being like, WTF? I never knew it ended that way. I loved that show so much. Well, for all it's worth, both Alex and Justin get perma powers at the end. Max is the only one that doesn't. Justin technically wins the tournament, but only because Alex let him. She is granted the family powers after Justin explains the situation, but Justin is granted powers by the Grand Wizard who wants Justin to be his successor. But yeah, not sure how you would miss this detail since it is explained by like the first episode that they are all technically in competition. That is effing wild. Sporticus and Stephanie treating Robbie rotten badly all because he didn't want to be active. Let him live in Lazytown in peace. Edit, my highest upvoted comment so far and first silver. Thank you. Those two came to a place literally called Lazytown and tried to force everyone to be more active and stuff. If anything, Robbie Rotten should have been the hero for trying to maintain how the town should be. You speak the truth. If you think about it, Robbie Rotten is far more heroic. Sporticus thinks that being active is the key to happiness and well-being. As such, he tries to convince the kids to be more active, which in turn requires him to be active. Okay, sure. Now Robbie Rotten thinks that the key to happiness and well-being is to be inactive. As such, he tries to convince the kids to be less active, which in turn requires him to be active. Now this is Robbie making his day worse to improve someone else's day. Ignoring the question of which of them is correct in their worldview, it is obvious that Robbie Rotten is substantially more selfless. The episodes often show Robbie bothered, usually not by the noise the children are making, but by the idea that they are being active. He goes through huge amounts of work and planning to correct this, often making elaborate games for the kids in the process. Finally, let's examine the basic claim that Sportacus makes that the children would be happier and healthier if they subscribe to his lifestyle. They do seem to enjoy his sports, though Ziggy often has complaints. However, compare this to the joy the children had in Robbie Rotten's You Are a Pirate game, which involved nothing but props, imagination, and singing. Everyone loved it. You might think then that at least Sportacus is correct that the children would be healthier if they followed his advice, but once again I say Robbie is right. If you trap Sportacus in a cage, he starts to pass out in mere minutes from fruit withdrawal. He might be able to outrun Robbie, sure, but it isn't like Robbie isn't capable enough to build tree houses, ships, and whatnot. For most of my life though Lazy Town was a weird dream I had. Imagine my surprise when I see we are number 1 as a meme. Honestly, thinking back, a lot of shows seem like fever dreams. The Cat in the Hat nearly pummeled a young child's skull with a baseball bat. That movie is hilarious and yet so screwed up. He legit cuts off his tail and swears in front of children. Cat, your tail. What about it? Look, son of a bitch. To be fair, he was whacked by several children with a bat. I'd be a bit pissed too. In High School Musical, when everyone manipulates Troy into saying he doesn't care about Gabriella at all while recording the whole thing so that she sees it. God, if I was Troy and learned about that, I'd have quit the basketball team. If my friends couldn't stand by me and sold me out like that, there's no reason for me to be with them. Same with Gabriella and her science friends. Of course, they didn't manipulate her into saying things she'd regret and film it, but they still thought her potentially being distracted from their competition was enough of a reason to mess up her relationship. It's a while since I've seen it, I'm sorry if I made mistakes. To be fair though, at least it wasn't laughed off or portrayed as not being a bad thing to do. Both friend groups apologized sincerely and admitted what they did was wrong. In the Rapunzel TV series, there's a controversial episode in which Rapunzel, after having an argument with Eugene in which she disagrees with his advice, accidentally goes back in time to a point when Eugene was a thieving teen. During this episode she appears as one of the Stabbington brothers and ends up changing Eugene's views in the future to match hers by the end of the show. Eugene has no idea this has even happened. It's pretty controversial because while Rapunzel didn't mean to do it, she sort of forced a core personality change in him, and the show never really addressed the argument because Eugene is just like, I don't know why we were arguing before because I agree in the end of the episode. Would they have even met if he changed his ways so soon before meeting her? Rule 1 of time travel on TV, films: do not question time travel. Of course not. Oh man, I remember this episode. One of the things I really enjoyed about Tangled the series was Raps and Eugene's general communication. That episode kind of undermined the entirety of what made Tangled different than the other princess stories. This has become like the Avatar movie for me. There is no war in Ba Sing Se. As soon as I finished that episode I had to Google it to make sure other people had noticed how horribly effed up that ending was. Literally every single decision made by Robin Williams and Mrs. Doubtfire. What's interesting is that as a kid, you side with Robin Williams. Rewatching it as an adult, the guy was seriously dysfunctional and his wife was absolutely right to divorce his ass. Also, you realize that Pierce Brosnan's character wasn't the villain you thought he was when you were a kid. He was a legitimately nice, solid guy dating a woman with 3 kids going through a contentious divorce. He was a saint, but ended up almost choking to death. Mrs. Doubtfire horror trailer. YouTube link. Carly from iCarly was an asshat. Remember that episode where she is attracted to a guy because he stole his brother's motorcycle? And then he dumps him because he was not manly enough because he collects plushies? Schneider's humor was so mean-spirited overall. TBH, this is so accurate. Carly has so many flaws it's unreal, but she's also like plain vanilla yogurt at the same time. Tori was the biggest piece of effing cardboard in the entire Nickelodeon lineup of shows and characters. Everybody in Victorious has distinct personalities and traits and motivations for their actions. Tori just does things. And why is she actually the main star of the show? Kat and Jade were honestly way more likable and better singers as well. This has me rolling on the floor laughing. You're effing right. In fact, I can't even remember anything about Tori other than that wait, seriously, what can she do? I know she likes singing and isn't even that great. Literally every other character is more memorable. Also, Carly was more memorable than her. At least Carly could be funny. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.